For exercise 1, what you're going to do is you're going to take this code and copy it and paste it into Visual Studio console project. And you are going to be creating operator overloaded methods. So you're going to overload the increment and decrement. That code is going to go here. You're going to overload the greater than and less than. That code goes here. And you're going to overload the plus, addition, and subtraction. And that code goes here. You're not going to add anything else to the class. You do not need to add constructors or anything. We are going to use the default constructor that comes with C#. So once you get the overloaded methods added, the class is going to be done. So then you need to come down into the main method and add the code that calls the overloaded methods. So here, what you need to do is what we're doing with this is we have kind of an array of numbers. So we've got 10 numbers that we're randomly generating. And so down here, if the number, okay, so this is the array of our objects. Number is the only property. So we go in at 0 and we pull out the value. We see if it's divisible by 2. If it's divisible by 2, we want to add 1 to it. So the way to call operator plus plus is to take the object and put 2 plus signs after it. Okay, so if it's divisible by 2, we're going to add 1 to it. Otherwise, we're going to subtract 1. So here, what you need is operator plus plus. And here, what you need is to use the operator minus minus. So it's going to be numbers sub I minus minus. Okay, that's all you need. This will call operator plus plus. This is going to call operator minus minus. Then to call operator plus, the addition, we have to add something to an object. So what we're doing is we're creating the number to add object, and we're filling that property in with a random number. Okay, and so to add that random number to all of the values in our little number array, we need a for loop. And in that for loop, what you are going to do is you are going to take number sub I and you're going to add. So you got a plus sign, number to add. Okay, that is what you need to do. And how you should do that is number sub I plus equal num to add. That should call the operator plus. Here we're going to do the same thing with number to subtract. So we've got this little object that we are randomly filling with a value. You're going to do a little for loop. And what you're going to do is you're going to take number sub I minus equal number to sub. And after you do that, I would probably print out number sub I. And I would do the same up here so you can print out the new values. Have that right in your loop. Down here, to test out the comparison, we have to have a number to compare to. So we're creating an object here called number to compare, and we are randomly filling that in. Okay, and then you're going to have a for loop. Inside the for loop, you're going to have a nested if else. The first if is going to check this. If number sub I is greater than number to compare. If that's true, you are going to write a message that, number sub I is higher. Else if, and then this is your next condition you're going to check. And then if that's true, you're going to say number sub I is lower. And then you're going to have an else all by itself, because if it's not higher and it's not lower, that means they are equal. And that is what you're going to print out. Okay, so that is the first program. Second program, all you have to do in this program is create the overloaded methods. You do not need to do any other coding. We are going to use the default constructor that comes with C#. No need for coding constructors or anything else. You just want the overloaded methods. So before you code them, you do need to take a look and see how they're used. So if you take a look at this, this is a log class and you're logging activities. So you're going to log the activity, you're going to log the number of hours, and you're also going to log a category. And I should put a comment in here to show you what the categories are. Hold on a second. So the categories are fun, work, and other. Okay, so that's what you'll put in for category. And I did make that nullable, so it doesn't have to be filled in. So knowing this is what's in the class, if we take a look down here, you can see we've got the object mylog. It's an array of 100 activities. Okay, and so basically we loop through, and for each element, we are creating an object so that we can store something in the element. We display a menu with our choices, which are basically add an entry, print everything out, change a category or activity, adjust the hours, total the categories and do a comparison, or quit. Okay, so then case one is basically adding an entry. And so we check to make sure that we aren't exceeding our array. If we do exceed the array, we print a little error message. And otherwise, we let them add. Okay, and then case two, we are basically going to print the activities. So we're looking at the length of log, and then we're making sure it's filled in, because all of those were initialized to blanks and zeros. So obviously, if the activity isn't blank and it's not null, there's something there, so we can print it out. Case three basically lets us change an activity. So for any of the entries that we filled out, we can select that entry and change the activity. Case four is where we get into calling some of our overloaded operator methods. So for case four, we are going to select an entry that we want to change. And so the code for this is down here. What entry would you like to change? 1 through index. And then basically we make sure that they are entering an integer. We subtract 1 because we're dealing with an array and the first element is a 0, and we return whatever they pick. Okay, and then we ask if they want to increase the hours by 1, and if they do, here's where we are calling operator plus plus. So we're just taking the object and adding to it. We ask if they want to decrease the hours by 1. If they do, here is where we are calling operator minus minus. If they want to increase the hours by more than 1, then what we're doing is we are taking the object and we are adding whatever number of hours they want to change or increase it by. Okay, so this is important to know for creating operator plus, because what you're going to pass it then is the object and an integer that represents the hours. So this is different than some of the other examples we looked at. So the other examples, we were passing two objects that we want to add together. This time, we are passing an object and an integer. Okay, and so for decrease hours, this is going to be the same thing. They enter the number of hours they want to decrease by. Here is where it is calling the operator minus method, and it's passing an object and an integer that represents the number of hours. Okay, so that is how you're going to have to code the operator minus method, okay, as an object. Okay, so you're going to have a log object. And then the second parameter is going to be an integer representing the hours. Okay, and then case 5 is where we're going to do comparisons. So what we're doing in case 5 is we're going to total up the fun, the work, and the other information. So we create a total fun object, and we fill in the category and the activity. We create a total work object. We fill in the category and the activity, and we do the same thing for other. We fill in the category and activity. This little loop is going to fill in hours. So it's looking at the category for each of the log entries. If it's fun, we're adding in the hours for fun. If it's work, we're adding in the hours for work. And if it's other, we are adding in the hours for other. If they miskeyed the category, too bad, the hours don't get added in. Okay. So once we have all of the totals, that is where we are going to start using those overloaded comparison operators. So here we've got the total fun object, and we're seeing if it's greater than the total work. Okay. And so that is going to return true or false. If it's true, then we're checking the total fun to see if it's greater than the other. And what your overloaded method is going to be doing is it's going to be checking the hours. So that's the only numeric thing to check. So if the total fun hours is greater than both, this is what gets printed out. Okay. Then we've got an else here. We're going to check total work to see if that was greater than total fun. If that's true, it's also going to check total work to see if it's greater than total other. And if that's true, it's going to print out this. Okay. Otherwise, this is what it prints out. Okay. And all of this is part of a switch. So we have a switch on the selection. We have all of these cases. So after case 5, we have a default case that says they made a bad selection, and then we show them the menu again. So that is the program. You will have to create those methods, and that is it. All the rest of the code is in here for you. Down here, the last exercise, you're going to create your own class. And it can be whatever you want, but it cannot be a log, a calculator, a box, or a trip, because we've been there, done that. Okay, so in your class, you are going to need at least one numeric property in order to use the overloaded operator methods. So you have to figure out a class that has some kind of numeric property. Then you're going to do an overloaded unary operator. So one of these. You have to do an overloaded comparison operator. And remember, they have to be entered in pairs. You don't have to use both in your main method, but you're going to have to code both in the class. And then you're going to have a binary overloaded operator. You only have to have one, so it can be any of these. In your main method, you're going to create at least 2 objects, and then you have to use your unary overloaded operator. You have to use one comparison operator, and you have to use the binary operator. Okay, and then you're going to display your results. Once you're done with exercise 3, you are going to come into the discussion and you're going to share your overloaded program. So you can see I did do an example. It took me a while to figure out something that was going to work. And I ended up doing like a workout class, like thinking of weights. And so my numeric variables was, I think I did sets and the amount of time I spent on each exercise. And I did the time in minutes. Okay, so I ended up using the minutes for the addition, comparison, all of that. The sets, I believe, is or the total number of exercises is what I ended up using the increment on. There are some questions that you have to answer. So I went ahead and answered the questions. So you certainly can look at my example. Hopefully that you'll get some ideas from that. So that is the assignment, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with.